All right, well, now the offseason is finally rolling. We're getting some news all across the board. Couple of NBA teams making their first official signings. Let's look at Clutch Gaming first, not Clutch City Gaming.
No, don't say that.
Clutch Gaming.
Don't say that.
Make sure we get that right. The Houston Rockets affiliate. They've gotten the contract rights to Apollo in the bottom lane for the marksman, and they're also looking to bring in LirA and Hakuho. All this according to Mr. Jacob Wolf from ESPN eSports, so it's a pretty reliable source. That's pretty much the good of Envy.
Yeah, I mean, Seraph probably not drawing too much attention this offseason. And Niski, he is a good piece, but I'm not sure he's worth the import slot that is holding his weight down right now. You look at these other guys available, Pr0lly's name is floating around, Featherman's floating around, so getting Niski just really restricts what you're trying to do. But I do like what they've done with Apollo, Hakuho, LirA. I agree with you, those are the top three pieces from the Envy team from last season, so already it's a pretty solid base. You have one more import slot available to put in that top or mid lane, and then the other one will have to be domestic. But pretty solid start if you're Clutch Gaming, the Houston Rockets, whatever you want to go by. I'm happy with their progress so far.
You're happy with it?
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad. That's a pretty solid start. I mean, Apollo and Hakuho usually guys who are kind of associated with mediocrity, but they were actually pretty solid last split, one of the best laning duos in the entire NALCS, and they're both domestic, so yeah, it's a pretty solid start. At any time you still have an import slot open for that mid lane. That's key, especially with so many free agent mid lanes from EU and all over the place. Their names are kind of floating around in the air, so having that option is a great start for the Rockets.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they've been considered mediocre for so long, but when it came to CS differential, Apollo was always up there. Hakuho really showed that he can be a playmaker and still play those Aren't Center supports pretty well, so he was doing it all. And LirA, not his best split, last split, but going back, he was at one point a all-NA first team guy, so definitely has a lot of talent. He's worth the import slot for sure. Niski, maybe not so much, kind of an unproven guy, but solid start for the Clutch Gaming squad.
Yeah, and again, this one isn't an official signing yet. They bought out Apollo's contract from Envy, and LirA's a free agent. I believe Hakuho's a free agent too, but it's looking like those three are all going as a kind of package deal to Clutch Gaming, so that's a good start for them. Some stuff that has been official. Optic Gaming, they had a lot of rumors going around with Visit Chachi, some of the guys from UOL, but their first signing, they're drawing first blood with Akaadian from Echo Fox. He is the first official signing for Optic Gaming in League of Legends. Domestic jungler. I mean, not a bad start. Definitely not what people were expecting as kind of the big first signing for Optic, no doubt.
Yeah, especially when they had those ties to Hillisang and Visit Chachi before. That's no longer a thing. But yeah, Akaadian to Optic as their jungler. Definitely an interesting move. Akaadian was a guy who was kind of lost on this Echo Fox team that was struggling down the stretch on a kind of ugly roster at times. Froggen was great, but other than that, they were shuffling pieces in and out, including himself for Grig in the jungles. So Akaadian, when he first burst onto the scene, they were like, wow, these NA rookie junglers are crazy. Same time that Contracts was around, and then he kind of slid off and struggled down, hit that rookie wall, so to speak, and struggled from there. But Akaadian obviously has a ceiling to be that carry jungler, and we'll see if he can get back to that with Optic.
Yeah, and obviously it's hard to judge with no roster around him what he's going to do with, but I mean, saving 2 import slots, again, that's going to be the theme going forward, is if you can get the best available talent domestically, it opens up tons of opportunities for you to bring in some guys from other regions. For Echo Fox, this was a guy you kind of thought they'd be holding on to, pretty much one of the guys, maybe a lock outside of Froggen, obviously, but they end up getting rid of him, so they've got to have some kind of backup plan. I can't believe they're just going with Grigney there in the jungle. They've got to have someone else in mind, whether or not it's an import. I just can't see them going with their sub.
No, there's no way that Grig is the solution here. They definitely have a bigger plan in mind. Echo Fox, a team that apparently is going to have a whole event where they unveil their roster down the road. If they don't get leaked, which I'm sure it will, by one of these guys who's always out there looking for
the
latest roster moves. So we'll see if Echo Fox can keep everything under the radar. But they're going to have a full event where they release it. But right now, no Akaadian. Froggen, the only guy who's likely to stay on that team, I would say. The rest is up in the air.
And again, pretty solid start to have Froggen in your mid lane when you're
Not bad.
building up a whole roster. Aframu, a guy who has been kind of linked there. Not really linked. Not linked at all, really. Rick Fox likes Aframu, and Aframu's a free agent.
Done
That's
deal.
the link.
Done deal. Handshake.
Not much of a link at all, but there's been some more signings as well. Some more first bloods for some of these new teams coming in. 100 Thieves earlier. They got Pr0lly come over from H2K as their head coach. And now their first official signing is Pr0lly's old mid laner, Ryu, coming in there, formerly of P1 last split. And he didn't have a great split for P1, mainly because P1 didn't have a great split at all. But I know we had both kind of thought Ryu might not make the cut as a starting mid laner on any of these teams, but apparently reuniting with Pr0lly, maybe Pr0lly had something to say to get him onto this roster. But Ryu, the first signing for 100 Thieves.
When you look at imports, this one is definitely one of the more underwhelming signings possible. Obviously, Ryu does take up that import slot in the mid lane, but when he was with Pr0lly in H2K, that was when Ryu was performing at a really high level. So maybe with Pr0lly, he can get back to that, where Ryu was an actual force in Europe. But as of what we saw last split with Phoenix 1, wasn't the best performance unless he was on that Corki, which is the one thing he kind of stood out on. And he did get a little bit better down the stretch at Rift Rivals, but overall, I didn't really expect to see him on a team. I thought he might be going back to Europe, back to Korea or something like that. I didn't see the fit for him to be an actual import slot in North America, but 100 Thieves are going to take the gamble with Pr0lly already on the roster.
Yeah, and maybe this is the beginning of an old H2K reunion. Jankos, a free agent. There's some rumblings about him coming to NA. Are those two spots really worth both your import slots if you're bringing in Jankos and Ryu? I'm not so sure, but again, that team got to the semifinals at Worlds.
Yep.
So obviously they had some great chemistry to be able to do that. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting first signing as an organization. It doesn't exactly scream excitement and you're like, oh my God, I gotta be a fan of this team. No offense to Ryu. I mean, he's a pretty quiet guy. He's a pretty toned down feller.
Twitch chat will be happy.
Twitch chat will be happy. The Ryu faces will be coming out.
Yes, they will. But yeah, I mean, when you sign the top or a mid laner from the bottom tier North American team, it's never going to draw too much attention. And not too many clappers, I don't think, are going to be out there. We'll have to see how the fans feel. But kind of underwhelming, but nonetheless, 100 Thieves are on the board.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more esports content.